Are you tackling all your debt wrong? Maybe you're trying to pay down one loan at a time or put extra money into things like your mortgage payment or your student loans? If so, then we need to talk. Because in this video, I'm going to expose these popular myths and introduce you to a game changer called Cashflow Index. All right, so number one, let me talk about that first problem, paying down one loan at a time. Now, that one loan, many times people will just try to spread extra payments to all their different loans, right? They'll just try to put a little extra to their credit cards, a little extra to their auto loans, just a little here, a little there. And I think of it like this. If you're trying to put out a fire, you're not gonna use a little sprinkler that shoots out in different directions like, you're not gonna do that, right? It's just a horrible way to put out a fire. Instead, the best thing is to focus on one flame at a time. Channel all the energy into one, pay it down, move to the next one, and move to the next one. Now, I know I'm not the first one to say this, but it's true. Many times people feel like they're making progress, but in reality, what's happening is that you're creating more frustration and it's requiring more patience, and really it's not as effective. It just doesn't make as much of a difference. The best thing you do is get rid of one debt at a time so that the immediate cash flow bump, meaning that you free up more money each time when you do that, allows you to be able to build that buffer and create more safety in your financial situation. Now, number two, do not pay extra on your installment loans. These are things like your mortgages, your auto loans, your student loans, anything that has a fixed payment. So credit cards are different. Credit cards, as you pay them down, the payment goes down too. But with these installment loans, when you pay extra to them, the payment remains the same. That's dangerous, right? Because you might throw an extra $1,000 onto that loan, but what if you need that $1,000 back? Now, of course, the way you can avoid that is having a bigger savings account on the side. But the problem is this, when you put an extra $1,000 onto that loan, you save a little bit of interest over the long haul, right? But it does nothing for your cash flow today. The best thing to do instead is to build up the savings to pay off that loan and build your savings beyond what the balance of that loan is. So here's what happens. As you keep making regular loan payments, the loan balance goes down. As your savings, you're starting to save to pay it off, goes up. Eventually you get to a point where they'll match, you'll say, oh, I have enough to pay off that loan. Don't do it. Keep going, and then when you got more so that you're not tapping into your emergency fund, and I'm talking about if this is your emergency fund money, do not use all your emergency fund here. If you have an extra account just to pay off loans, great. Then when it hits this matching point, pay it off. Otherwise, if this is your emergency fund in here as well, go up higher so you got at least a few $1,000s more and then pay it off in one lump sum, one check. That's how you pay off these installment loans. Mortgages, you do not pay extra to it at all. Stop paying these biweekly payments where you're paying twice a month into your mortgage. Does not save you more money. In fact, you'd be better off paying an extra mortgage payment each year, and you'll actually save more in interest than that other strategy where you're required to pay every twice a month. Instead, just pay the simple minimum payment possible, but build up that savings to pay it off. Same thing with auto loans, student loans, and things like that. Now, this third point I'm gonna say, and this might freak you out. This may freak you out a little bit, but hang with me. Don't just throw out the baby with this bathwater here. The baby's cute, I promise. Number three is ignore the interest rate. Do not pay attention to it. Now, it doesn't mean I don't ever pay attention to the interest rate, but do not make this the determining factor to pay off the loan or not. The interest rate really, it overall doesn't matter. And I learned this firsthand in my own situation. When I was struggling, I was paycheck to paycheck. Actually, let's be honest, I was worse than paycheck to paycheck. I was in the hole $15,000 a month. That means I was short $15,000 that I needed to make in my income so that I could keep paying my bills. That's how short I was. I was so short that I was racking up credit card bills. As a result, I burned through all my savings, had no money, no credit, and I was just sinking fast. I didn't know what to do. I was looking at my debt, and obviously there was a lot of it at that point. And with whatever little savings I had left, I'm like, what do I do? Do I invest this money and try to make a lot of money off of this to then help pay down my debt? Or do I pay off a debt? And so I started to look at it. I said, well, what's the best way to do this? How can I actually get the biggest bang for my buck is really what I was looking for, right? How to get my money to work as hard for me as possible. Because I really look at my money like little soldiers, right? How do I get them to fight for me? How do I get them to really work for me? So I started looking at it like a rate of return. And instead of just looking at the interest rate, I was looking at what was the minimum payment? How is that affecting me? Because that's the real factor, right? What's happening here? And this is where I learned this stuff, is because I was able to pay off over $1 million of debt and become financially independent less than 10 years after I ran into this mess. So I'm telling you, you have hope, okay? But I had to ignore the interest rate first because the interest rate didn't always mean it was the best one to pay off. This is where it comes to our big reveal, right? The cash flow index, like I mentioned. When I was in that stressful period of time, I remember it was 2008, and I'm sitting at my computer and I'm trying to figure out what to do on my situation. And I started looking at my money differently. I started looking at like those payments compared to the loan balance. I said, oh, well, if I invest by paying off this loan, my cash flow is this much per month, guaranteed. That was kind of comforting too, considering that investments are not always guaranteed, right? And I said, well, which one's the better return? Because they're all different balances, different payments. How do I know which one's which? This is why I created a cash flow index, something that's very simple to calculate to help you decide. The cash flow index is simply this. You take the loan balance of that loan divided by its minimum monthly payment. Not the payment you're paying, but the minimum required monthly payment that the bank requires. Divide those into each other, you'll get the cash flow index. So if you have a $10,000 loan, that's $200 a month, that's an index of 50. Now that doesn't mean anything to you yet because I didn't tell you what the secret is yet, but hang with me. So 10,000 divided by the $200 a month is a 50. But that other $10,000 loan, let's say you have a second one, just the same balance, but it's $500 a month. That index is a 20. Now, even if you took these indexes away, you would still look at these two and say, well, if all I had is 10,000 bucks, the one that's gonna help give me some breathing room is that one, the $500 a month one, right? That's the one I wanna pay off because I can always pay that extra $500 to that $200 a month and pay that off too, but at least now I free up $500 a month in case either income drops or my expenses go up unexpectedly. So let's pay that sucker off. So what does that mean? That means your cash flow index, the lower the number, the more you pay it off. You pay off the lowest cash flow index first. That's what you go for. Pay that one off and then move up to the next one. I remember this was crazy because I remember I said ignore the interest rate, but also ignore the type of loan sometimes. Because I remember showing a woman, she was fresh out of college. She had a few loans, but she was really just paycheck to paycheck, tight on cash. She says, what do I do? And I remember looking at the different indexes on her credit cards and auto loans and things like that. And I said, here's what you're gonna do. You can't use the credit card to pay off your auto loan. So instead, I want you to charge up about $2,000 on your credit card this month for just your normal monthly expenses. Charge that up, and the $2,000 that you would normally spend out of your checking account, use that to pay off your car loan. It'll free up about $300 a month. She's like, wait, so essentially you want me to use my credit card to pay off my car loan? I said, yes, you would do that. And it would only add about $50 a month on your credit card while you free up $300 a month on the car loan. She's like, yeah, but that sounds crazy. I'm like, it actually does, doesn't it? But here's the cool thing. Now you get that $300 a month freed up. You can actually use that $300 to then still pay off the credit card in a couple months, charging you almost no interest anyways, because the interest doesn't charge you that much in a matter of months. It takes years to really have that interest be a big impact. So I said, you'll still be able to pay that off too. But in the meantime, if anything goes wrong, right? If anything happens in your life where all of a sudden you need that cash back, at least you know you only have to pay $50 a month versus the $300 a month on this other loan. She said, okay, that makes sense. I said, yes, it protects you. It's actually a safer way of doing this than only focusing on the interest rate, going for only credit cards first and then car loans. That doesn't work. Go after that one first. And guys, that's when I knew I had a revelation. And it's literally saved people thousands upon thousands of dollars a month. I've used this to even show people how they could refinance their houses, pay off certain loans while leaving the other ones alone, and they free up sometimes $5,000, $10,000 a month doing that very strategy. I had one client who actually did that, freed up $6,000 a month. He was working 6 days a week. He was able to back off, free up his weekends, spend time with his family. His wife was literally in tears telling me how she was so appreciative that now he took the weekend off, and that first $6,000 he freed up, he bought a $6,000 four-wheeler to spend with his family for the weekend. Now I know there would be a lot of guys giving judgment on him and shame, saying, how dare you blow that money? I said, good for you, because it wasn't just about the money, it was about getting your life back, your family back. That is so important, guys. That is what this really comes down to, is giving you your freedom and creating more options in your life so that you can be able to make more powerful decisions for you and for your family. So guys, that's what I love about this. Tell me in your comments below, what was your favorite point here? Which one do you need to work on for yourself in paying down your debt? And also, keep watching this next video about what you can stop doing wrong in this series here.